Same face, different plays as North Metro TV pays a visit to Mariner Middle School in White Bear Lake. It's home turf for Ted and I. It used to be the White Bear Lake South Campus, but today it's the temporary home for Centennial boys and girls lacrosse. We have the Section 7 quarterfinals, beginning with the girls. Centennial and Forest Lake, 3 seed versus 11 seed. If you're wondering why we're here, Centennial is going through some renovations at their home field. So they're making the move here. And Ted, I don't think you and I have ever done this, a neutral site game, I guess. It's technically a home game for Centennial at White Bear Lake. Who ever thought this would happen?
Yeah, quite the set of circumstances here today. Not only are we not playing at White Bear Lake High School, we're playing at, you mentioned the middle school. Of course, the campus is kind of merging together. This is one of the 2 middle schools here in District 624. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup here today. Forest Lake coming off of an upset over Anoka in the first round, so it's an 11 versus 3 matchup. Obviously, we know how good Centennial is, both on the boys and, of course, the girls' side as well. This has been one of the better programs here in Section 7. So I'm looking forward to see if Centennial can kind of take care of business here today, or is Forest Lake going to push them a little bit?
And the interesting aspect with this, and maybe this speaks to where Section 7 is right now, Centennial just 4 wins. They have not won since May 5th. Forest Lake, with that upset over Anoka in the play-in round, picked up their 3rd win of the season. So combined, these two have 7 wins, but Centennial getting the 3 seed. I think a lot of it comes down to strength of schedule and how they performed. Ella Weiss is going to be the top player to look out for Centennial. You've seen her, of course, on North Metro TV. Lillian Browsen and Paige Clausen, the other top scorers for Centennial. Forest Lake, their top scorer, Jamie Peterson, only 14 goals, so offense has been hard to come by for the Rangers, Ted. Forest Lake, I think, will have to get on a quick start to continue their upset bid.
And you possession right away, and you mentioned Ella Weiss. She's going off and turning to attack, trying to get them on the board, and that's exactly what she does.
Well, there it is. As Ian Malcolm would say, Ella Weiss with a solo effort, 33 seconds into the contest. She picks up goal number 26 on the season.
Yeah, this one started just right from the draw. She gains possession, kind of works down this near sideline, goes all the way to X behind the goal, and she's just like, I'm just going to do it myself. And you talked about Forest Lake maybe needing to get out to that early lead. Going behind like this, of course, is not exactly the way the maroon and gold wanted to come out. But clearly it's Centennial, wants to handle possession and get out to an early lead, and that's exactly what happened.
There is some shower activity moving through. This is a turf field, of course, so not going to be a problem at Mariner Middle School. I'm still getting used to saying that because it has all the White Bear Lake markings.
Yeah, and of course here in this district, the high school here, formerly White Bear Lake Mariner, what was kind of the name of it back in the day before it became White Bear Lake Area High School. So that's kind of the historical tie-in, and now adopting the name here at the middle school campus.
Middle school sports taking up activities at all these facilities now, and for today, Forest Lake and Centennial, as Forest Lake is trying to get on the move, but good defensive pressure leads to the loose ball by Avery Novotny. Yes.
Yeah, you saw the Forest Lake attacker there, and just 4 Cougars converge to take that ball away, and now they're on the attack.
Pass was bobbled, picked up by Lillian Browsen. She backs off. Remember, in high school lacrosse, no shot clock. So once you have possession, you can take as much time as you want. And in girls lacrosse, there's also no midfield line, so you don't have to worry about the lacrosse equivalent of the backcourt violation or midfield line. I don't know what they call it specifically, but in girls lacrosse, things are a little looser, so to speak, than boys. It is interesting as we have a foul, and that will lead to a free position setup for Centennial as a foul occurred within the 8-meter line. It looks like it will be Mackenzie Munger sizing this one up. Waiting for the signal. Got cut off, but finds a teammate up front. Good play by Forest Lake's goalie. It looks like Ava Haglund who got the save. It is number 48. Centennial's goalie, Delaney Linzer. Go ahead, Ted.
That was well played defensively for Forest Lake right away. You know, of course, when you have one of those free plays in there, you know, you got to be able to react and cut that off. So not only do they prevent that, but, you know, on that second, you know, centering pass, dare I say, in front of the net, a great save, as you mentioned in there. So that was a really good defensive sequence by the Rangers.
But Centennial answered back, getting another takeaway in the offensive zone. So they can set things up again. With the rain showers and cloud cover, the temperature dropping to the 60s. The delayed quick stick. Another save for Hagelin. Ball stays in the field of play. Likely would have been Centennial's ball anyway, because on a shot on goal, if it rolls out of bounds, whoever's closest to the ball keeps it.
Very clear. Centennial is willing to take all the time in the world to find a great shot here on these last two attempts.
Just like Louis Armstrong all those years ago. If you don't know the reference, I'll explain when we get a stoppage, because
we might
it
have
takes
time.
a couple of steps. Centennial with the 1-0 lead. Winner moves on to the section semis.
Situation like this, Forest Lake, you know, the last two shot attempts were turned away, but they need to find a way to put a little bit more defensive pressure here on Centennial, because if Centennial, you know, if they can just kind of toss this ball around on the outside, score a couple of goals, they'll be in a good spot.
And there's another high-low that was initiated by Wiest. Centennial gets another rebound. They don't keep track of that in lacrosse like they do in other sports, but Centennial all over Forest Lake to start this quarter. And you spoke of patience, Ted. I did half of the Centennial Spring Lake Park game, pinch hitting for North Metro TV. Centennial won that one pretty handily, but it was only a 2-0 score at halftime.
Yeah, it's the same kind of approach, certainly, here today. But I think Forest Lake is also playing a defensive structure where they don't want to allow a lot of things near the net, a lot of players that are kind of cutting in there to try to get that pass and right in the middle, right in front of the goalie there, like that, dare I say. You know, so Forest Lake, they've been playing good defensively, but I think they got a structure where they're going to try to keep everything on the outside, not allowing some things towards the middle. In basketball, you might call it packing the lane, kind of a defensive structure here for Forest Lake.
Nearly 5 minutes have gone by, and Centennial has held possession for just about all of it. Forest Lake got jammed up the one time they were in the attacking side of the field, and now another free position set up from the 8-meter arc, awaiting the Cougars. Hagelin gets another save. Scrum for the loose ball picked up by the Rangers. This is the chance they've been looking for. That's Ellie Ness. And she will, no, excuse me, that was number 34. Jamie Peterson, who is the top scorer for Forest Lake. Rangers on the move. They didn't score first, but they get stick check from behind. I was just about to say this was a big opportunity for them to tie it up, Ted, and here comes Centennial, although their pass is a little offline.
One thing I've noticed, I think, from Centennial is they're you know, what we talked about, how Forest Lake is kind of backing off a little bit defensively. Centennial attacks. Once the Forest Lake attacker gets the ball, there's 2 or 3 Cougar defenders to try to force the turnover.
Centennial, I think, wanted to go back door. Hagelin leaps up for the grab and then flings it downfield. In boys and girls lacrosse, goalies do have a time limit. Outlet pass picked up. I'll finish that in a minute. That's Lydia Balfany.
This is exactly what they want to be, behind the net at X. This is the best chance Forest Lake has had so far.
Balfany did a full lap around the arc and then launches a rifle that rips its way through the net. Forest Lake ties it up at 1.
You just need that opportunity, and that's exactly what they got. And I kind of mentioned when Forest Lake had the ball, there were, you know, the defenders were kind of converged, but a long pass to kind of get this thing started, almost get past the midfield point, the 50-yard line here on this field at Mariner Middle School. And then, as you said, Balfany kind of having the ball behind the net in a one-on-one matchup. You know, it's been 1-on-2, 1-on-3, 1-on-4 when Forest Lake has kind of turned it over before. But, you know, this is clearly going to be a game where the pace is going to be a little bit slower, and you're going to need to take advantage of those opportunities. And that's exactly what the Rangers did on the last offensive possession.
It is worth noting, even though Forest Lake only has 3 wins, including the first round section victory over Anoka, that victory over Anoka avenged a regular season defeat. But here comes Centennial winning the draw and wasting little time. Hagelin with another deflection, but Centennial closest to the ball. Remember, the clock does not stop unless there is a goal scored or an official signals to stop the clock. So this game moves pretty quickly.
He had another good save on that last time out. I believe it was Caitlin Hemmer who had a chance to score there for Centennial. But yeah, it's you know that they've been really good in net so far. Forest Lake has today.
Hagelin holding her ground so far, but lots of lacrosse to be played, even in a running time game. And then the boys will take the field against Chisago Lakes. We'll have both games on North Metro TV. Flag goes up. We have another foul on Forest Lake. They've been in reach with the stick, and this is the third free position opportunity for the Cougars. Browsen from the 8-meter line. Goes right at Hagelin and goes top shelf to give Centennial a 2-1 lead.
Now that was one from Browsen, as you said, her 22nd goal of the season, where she got that good first step. But I think she was close enough to the net where she was going to be able to kind of, you know, have a favorable advantage. It was going to be tough to recover for Forest Lake into that position. But that's like, if you're Forest Lake in this game, knowing kind of how this game has gone so far, where scoring opportunities have been tough, you can't allow those fouls, you know, to get into that free position. And you know, credit certainly to Lillian Browsen for taking advantage of that.
So Centennial's top 2 scorers light the lamp. I guess there isn't a lamp in lacrosse.
There could be. We could put one out there.
I think we should.
I guess we're a little busy right now. We're a little busy.
You and I specifically, yes. Browsen coming in, a pair of hat tricks after not getting one all season, getting 3 against Rogers and then scored 3 goals in the loss to Elk River Zimmerman. The teams at the top, your usuals, so to speak. Stillwater's up there, Lakeville South, Prior Lake. That's going to be a tough group of squads to get through. But we still have a couple rounds of section play to go in a one-class sport that began 18 years ago as a sanctioned sport. Draw control will go to Forest Lake. And Ted, what you mentioned in that last 8-meter score by Browsen, getting that first step, speed is huge, and a foul on Forest Lake gives the ball right back to Centennial. Soft pass. Flint is there to pick it up.
What happens now, I think it's going to be very interesting here. 3.5 minutes of change left in the first quarter here. We get a turnover for Forest Lake. You know, going down 2 goals in a game like this seems to, you know, obviously it's very early. You don't want to call it something like insurmountable, but it does seem like a fairly significant challenge. If like the Rangers do get behind by 2 goals, 3 goals, and it keeps on growing. So it's a big time for Forest Lake to kind of battle back.
Kind of like what happened yesterday with the Wolves and Thunder.
Yeah, you don't want to get that out of control.
Too soon?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, you grew up in Wisconsin, though. I thought you were a Bucks fan.
That's it, you know.
You've got a title. You've got 2.
I'm
still waiting for 1.
Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it?
For men's sports, yes.
Yeah. The last title was the year I was born, 1991.
Yes. Although the women have more than made up for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Forest Lake is trying to make up. Well, 2-1 deficit. That's really not a huge one to make up. They're going to draw a foul, and there it is. That will give an 8-meter position to Piper DeLong. DeLong wide left, and Centennial closest to the ball.
Interesting approach there to just fire it, right? Almost take like a half a step and then fire it. It's almost like she maybe didn't trust her or the first step quickness to be able to kind of get a better scoring opportunity. Centennial they were ready. Got to give them credit, ready, and were prepared to make that stop. And that's a big opportunity right there for Forest Lake. I don't know how many more of those opportunities that they're going to get. So you got to be able to capitalize.
Again, still a lot of lacrosse to be played, so we'll see. I haven't covered Forest Lake often in my time in this sport, but I know they've been trying to build up the ranks for a while. They haven't had the same level of success as some of the other programs in the Suburban East, but they do have that first round upset win. And remember, lacrosse is a one-class sport, so most of the sections have more than 8 teams. As a result, you have what I call the play-in round or the first round before you get to the section quarters. Here comes Centennial trying to run a high-low. Didn't work out, but there to back it up is Novotny. Centennial working behind the net, less than a minute to go. This is Weiss. She was looking for the wraparound, the stick check, and Hagelin with the takeaway. Another big stop by Forest Lake. They've got time. Hagelin is out of the crease, so she can take as much time as she wants. Again, there's no time limit to get the ball upfield like there is in boys lacrosse, but Mua pounces, trying to scoop it up. Can't do it cleanly. Forest Lake has it back, but now just 25 seconds remain.
Some good passing here to start off this attack for Forest Lake as they're looking to get another goal on the board.
They should have time. Oh, they were looking for the high-low to Hope Tuma, and the ball will roll out of bounds. And that will likely do it as time runs out in this first quarter. Yes, it will. Centennial had it anyway. 12 minutes in, 2-1 the score. Centennial over Forest Lake.
North Metro TV News is your source for local stories. Highlighting the issues in your community, we bring you the news that's closer to home. Join us as we explore the stories all around us, every day at 2:30, 6:30, and 10:30.
Go ahead. 2-1 our score. A couple of goals from Centennial's big hitters, or should I say big shooters, in Weist and Browson, because, you know, you shoot with your stick. Forest Lake got one midway through the first from Lydia Balfany on a run around the fence. Ted, Centennial dominated possession in that first quarter. Hagelin came up with some big stops. It feels like Forest Lake, they've got to get a little more consistency on offense, because Centennial, if they can keep up this level of possession, they might be able to pull away simply through attrition.
Yeah, and that last offensive attack, I know that last pass was a little bit long, but I think that's what Forest Lake needs a little bit more. They need to be able to move the ball a little bit, because when they're just carrying the ball up the field, that's when the Centennial defenders can converge. That's when you get 2, 3, 4 defenders, and it's very clear what Centennial's defensive game plan is. They're going to be aggressive. Be aggressive, try to take the ball away from the ball carrier. Forest Lake has almost the exact opposite defensive structure and defensive game plan. So if you're Forest Lake, to be able to combat that, you need to be able to move the ball. You need to get the Centennial defense moving a little bit. And when that's happened throughout this game, Forest Lake has gotten into good scoring situations. So they need more of that. And then, like Centennial, you mentioned the possession. Like, they need to just hang on to the ball. It's clear, like, if they can win the time of possession the rest of the way, they're going to win this game. Like, I think that's very clear. They've been pretty good at kind of finding their opportunities now. Hagelin's done a really good job at steering away a couple of those scoring opportunities. Like, I mean, we got a 2-1 score right now. This could easily be 4-1. I mean, this could easily be 5-1. But Hagelin is doing a good job keeping those balls out of the net right now for Centennial. Just got to keep that possession, keep the ball away from Forest Lake, take those good shots when they're there and capitalize.
Centennial won 4 of their first 6 and then 6 straight losses. Again, they got the 3 seed. The winner, in all likelihood, will head up to Blaine next week in the section semifinals. And if that's the case, you might see us there. But don't quote me on that. Just stay tuned to North Metro TV because a lot of our teams are jockeying for section position as Forest Lake wins the draw to start the second quarter. Of course, the teams switch sides every quarter.
One thing to keep in mind for Centennial, that aggressive mindset. Sometimes that can kind of backfire on you, and you can get into some favorable situations off of a whistle. So that's something to certainly keep an eye on. See if that allows Forest Lake to get some better scoring opportunities.
And this is single elimination. The quarterfinals. The start of the playoff run for Centennial. Forest Lake. Not sure if that was a shot attempt or a pass. It stays with Forest Lake. Might have looked like a shot attempt from Balfany, but Rangers ball, so no harm, no foul.
It did look like a shot attempt. Some good defense, kind of really forcing her more out to the outside, almost taking a fadeaway type of shot.
This time Forest Lake was able to get to the middle, and a Ruka shot, though, sent away by Linzer. And now the Cougars set up. Could this be a solo run? The off-speed shot finds its way in. How about that? Kylie Bergwald scoring her second goal of the season. She just took it in herself.
Yeah, great time for it. He hasn't been much of a scorer this year, certainly as you mentioned, but yeah, this is a big goal, and we talked about, obviously we're still fairly early in the game. It is the second quarter. 10 minutes of change to go. We still got a long way to go in this one, but we talked about Centennial and their possession. If they with that multi-goal lead, maybe if we get middle of the third or middle of the second and stuff a little bit later on, maybe it changes the approach for Forest Lake a little bit. But now that you have that cushion, I'd be very curious to see what direction this game goes for both teams. But certainly a great finish there on the inside.
Again, a 2-goal lead, so too early to put anyone through just yet. But it is worth noting Centennial, they've been the first team to score now the first and second quarters, and they've been able to do it pretty quickly. This time they scored on a counter after a save, and that's how that goal was set up. It began with the Linzer save, and Bergwald just had confidence, looked at the opening up the middle and said, all right, I'll go for it. Wiest wins the draw for Centennial, and again in girls lacrosse they call it a draw, but effectively it's the same as a face-off. I don't know why they call it different terms, but that's for another day. Centennial looking for the backdoor pass. Forest Lake able to bat it away. Mua has it, but in heavy traffic. Finds a teammate up front. Hagelin there to make the save. That was impressive for Mua to find Ryan Cheesebro, and Hagelin making an impressive defensive stop. Hagelin doing what she can to keep Forest Lake around.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, that she's been the MVP of this game so far for Forest Lake. Is, I mentioned before of what this game could be at this point. Like I talked about a 2-goal deficit. This one could really be out of hand if she's not making some big-time stops in there. So she's kept Forest Lake in this game. Now the offense just kind of has to do their part.
Hagelin took a lot of time. Remember, no time limit to move the ball across midfield or into the attack zone. But Centennial maintaining their aggressive posture. Forest Lake can't get that lead pass on point, but the ball will roll and stop before going out of bounds, allowing Hope Tuma to retrieve it. Ted, have you ever had games where you found yourself at a neutral site on what is supposed to be a home game?
I think it's going on right now.
Well, right, besides this one.
Yeah, it's like we said at the top. It's certainly a unique environment here, but some track upgrades going on around the Metro. This is kind of the time of year after the track and field season concludes. When summer's starting to set in, this is certainly the time to do it. So that's how you kind of come up with these situations.
Forest Lake, along the right seam, finds themselves in a scoring situation that brings the margin back to 1. That's Elena Halverson.
Yeah, good job by Halverson, kind of being a little bit patient, but finding her shot opportunity from a little bit further out to make this a 1-goal game. That's exactly what Forest Lake needed at this point in time, is to be able to cut this one in half. And having that goal and getting back to a 1-goal game, I just keep getting reminded of what Forest Lake has been able to do between the pipes on their end. Is keeping them in this game. I just keep coming back to that right now, and as long as they can kind of stay within a 1-goal type of game, this is going to be really fun. Going to be really competitive the rest of the way.
Forest Lake, they ran into their share of turbulence against some of the heavy hitters in the Suburban East. Cretin-Durham Hall, Stillwater, Park of Cottage Grove. They've had a sensational year. But will they break through against the Blue Bloods, the heavy hitters? A lot of eyes have been on Prior Lake and Lakeville South. Again, we'll have to answer those questions in a couple of weeks.
Now it's going to be I'm very intrigued to see how Forest Lake is going to respond, because I feel like the more that this game is like a 1-goal game, close to a tie game, the more that this time goes by, I think that favors Forest Lake a little bit more. And we talked about the possession that Centennial wants to play, and they want to play possession lacrosse, and they want to just be able to get those good shots and get goals on the board. But as long as Forest Lake can kind of hang around, I think that favors them.
And this isn't just a case of, well, Forest Lake got one upset. They did so against a team that beat them pretty handily the first time around. So they do have that extra bit of confidence in the tank.
They say in bigger sports, it's hard to beat the same team twice.
Or 3 times.
Hard to beat the same team 3 times. However you want to. In high school, it's kind of like that twice, and that's kind of how it was, of course, with Forest Lake against the Milkers. We got a flag out here.
Delayed foul on Centennial. And again, these two did not play each other in the regular season. Lacrosse is a short season, 13 games, so you don't get a lot of non-conference opportunities. Centennial in the Northwest Suburban, Forest Lake in the Suburban East. But a 8-meter position chance for Balfany to tie this up. Linzer swats it away.
Yeah, and that's like, I was kind of watching her approach, and that was very clear as what she wanted to do. She wanted just to maybe take a half a shuffle step and fire that one home. It was just a matter of where she was going to put the ball, but unfortunately for her, just putting a little bit wide.
Centennial takes over.
Yeah, what a great opportunity it would have been there for Forest Lake. But like we said, those opportunities are going to be huge. Got to take advantage of them.
This could turn into an opportunity for Centennial. Eglin.
Again.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Again, that was as good of a scoring opportunity as Centennial has had, going right down the middle with little defensive resistance. But, man, she just finds a way to keep Forest Lake within this game with some great saves, and just another one right there. It's been fun to watch so far.
Hagelin, her save percentage coming into this, just .361. And remember, Forest Lake, they've been on the receiving end of several blowouts against teams that admittedly are higher in the skill chart, skill level, but so far they're holding their own here, and you got to win one round at a time. Forest Lake giving Centennial all they can handle in the first half. And another strong defensive stance as Centennial tried to run that high-low. Forest Lake shut off the right side.
Forest Lake getting a little bit more aggressive now. Before they were kind of playing off, and they still are to a certain extent, but you kind of saw there some good defensive pressure to keep Centennial out of a scoring situation. So we've seen what we've seen from Hagelin and net. Now maybe the defensive pressure ramping up a little bit for Forest Lake.
Centennial ball, and I haven't seen that before. Most of the Centennial attackers went back to the ref and then going back around. You have 7 to a side, but we nearly had a pile up in the middle of the net. Instead, Centennial will pile on another score. Lillian Browsen delayed but not denied.
I believe that's her second goal of the game.
It is.
And Centennial will take a 2-goal lead now with a 4-2. Man, there's a decent amount of traffic in the net, which is maybe what Centennial is going for. There was some pretty good pressure out there for the Rangers defensively. But as you said, she's got her second goal of the game here and another 2-goal cushion for Centennial.
4-2 the score with 4:49 left in the second quarter. On another gray, cloudy evening, late afternoon, it was sunny and pleasant up until 4:30.
Yeah, and then some clouds started to roll in, and rain, maybe as not much rain as we might have expected. Who knows, it could come a little bit later.
Well, Centennial is raining down goals and taking a bow. Might have taken a hit to the head inadvertently. We hope she's all right, but that is Caitlin Hemmer, the sophomore, with her first goal of the season.
Yeah, we saw her with a shot opportunity, 2 assists as well this season. So she hasn't gotten involved a lot in the scoring column so far. But, hey, what better time than the first playoff game for Centennial this season? So, you know, now this is exactly where you don't want to be if you're Forest Lake. Now Centennial's getting a lot of momentum. They're getting a lot of confidence, and they're showcasing their depth, right? There's more than just those couple of top scorers that are getting involved, and a 3-goal lead for Centennial. We'll see if Forest Lake can slow this down, but Cougar is feeling awfully good right now.
And something I've noted when I've covered lacrosse for this and other stations, Ted, for the teams that are expected to win, what kind of production can you get outside of the big names? With Centennial, you look to Wiest and Browsen a lot as Browsen brings the ball up. Here she is. But the double coverage in front of her will force her to backpedal. But now Centennial has a couple of goals from players who, in the case of Bergwald, have scored once, or in the case of Hemmer, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you got to deal with more than just some of your top scorers, Wiest, Brown, some of those players that we talked about before, that makes things defensively so much more difficult for Forest Lake.
And we spoke of the motivation factor for Forest Lake, but for Centennial, obviously, winning is enough of one because that means your season continues. As Browsen takes it away, thought she might have had a look at a counter, did not, but Centennial will back off and run another set. The other motivating factor for Centennial, as I noted before, Ted, 6 straight losses to end the regular season, so they would like to send a reminder to folks that would say, hey, don't count us out just because we ran into some turbulence in the month of May.
Yeah, a little bit of a turbulence, looking to make a smooth landing, certainly here in the playoffs. But yeah, that's got to be it's a very interesting. It's not very often you see a number 3 seed in a lot of these sections have that type of finish to the regular season. But yeah, sometimes that can get to you a little bit mentally. You know, they've come out, I think, pretty solid so far. They're certainly sitting in a situation right now with just a couple of minutes left here in this first half, where this is an opportunity to get a lot of that confidence back.
Like any other sport, sometimes sections are lopsided in one direction or the other, but what's important is getting through, and that's what Ella Wiest does. She gets through the defense and snakes her way up front. Centennial taking command as they lead 6-2.
Great spin move to get free. There, a little bit of a change of direction, putting her foot in the ground, turning the hips around, and doing what she does. And we talked about it before the broadcast. We've talked about it during the broadcast, and now a +4 advantage for Centennial. So they're getting it from their top scorers here lately. They're getting it from Wiest. They're getting it from Browsen. They're getting it from Caitlin Hemmer. Like, they're getting it from all over the lineup right now. And here, middle of the second quarter, Now, late into the second quarter, this is when they're really starting to turn it on. And this is I think this is the Centennial team that maybe we expected to see from the outset, and maybe just needed a little bit to work their way into it. But now they're clearly on fire. Look at that. NBA Jam or NFL Blitz, when they get on they have the fire appear around the character. That's what Centennial is playing with right now.
Well, the Cougars have scored 3 straight, and another element I often reference is adjustments. Sometimes it takes the teams in front or the teams expected to win a little while to figure out the opponent. Remember, these two didn't see each other in the regular season, but Centennial starting to adjust and adapt. And now they look to blaze another path to a goal as Wiest brings the ball forward following another Centennial takeaway.
It's, the defense leading to offensive opportunities. And if Centennial can keep that up, it might be more of the same, like we've seen here in the latter stages of the second quarter.
Centennial, they've got time. 1:36 and counting. So they could take this aggressively. They could run it down. They certainly have control of this one. As Wiest drew the foul. She'll set up at the 8-meter mark. Already a history maker for Centennial. Wiest held up. Doesn't matter. I'll score anyway, she says, as she picks up, I believe, her 3rd hat trick of the season.
So she's got the ball from that free position. And she's carrying the ball in there, and she almost goes to, protect her head while she's going in there and saying, watch out, and then she just fires it in there for the goal. So, she's certainly the one that has been kind of leading this charge as of late as the Cougars continue to pile it on here. Now a 5-goal advantage and a well-placed timeout to try to regroup here with just over a minute left until halftime.
4 straight goals for Centennial. And after double-checking the numbers, Wiest picking up her 4th hat trick of the season. She last did so against Hudson. Now that you don't see often.
The Raiders across the river down there. They got a pretty solid lacrosse program over there.
They have some magnificent facilities.
They do.
I had a chance to cover a couple of volleyball games over there. I know you did some PA back in the day.
They've got a very unique setup for football where there's not an opposing bleacher on the other side. It's just woods, trees, which I can appreciate. But, so that's, they've got a very unique atmosphere. They used to play off campus. Now they play on campus. I'm always a proponent of playing on campus. So that's kind of great. They've redone their field house out there as well. So within the last 4 or 5 years or so, they've kind of redone those facilities. So Wisconsin, I'm not sure. Are they a sanctioned sport for lacrosse? Yeah, they got to be a sanctioned sport for lacrosse over there.
I don't think Centennial would have played them.
Play a club team. I've got a lot going on.
That's okay. I had some mulligans myself yesterday and earlier. I think we'll let it slide because we don't typically cover Hudson in our travels. And this place again, middle school. Now the middle school programs take up residence here. But it is a good problem to have if you're White Bear Lake. I don't know if they'll have to serve as temporary hosts again down the road, but you've got an extra field, you've got extra courts. So if another school says, hey, we are in a pinch, we know of at least one spot.
Exactly. And they kind of did an additional add-on with some practice courts and practice facilities within the last, I want to say the last 2 or 3 years. Over there as well. So, you've seen, especially now at their new high school facility, you've seen a lot more like state tournaments, like a soccer. Maybe there was a football quarterfinal there. You see a lot more of those. Those usually kind of go to the newer facilities, the bigger facilities. Of course, that can handle those types of things.
I've covered some state soccer quarterfinals at White Bear Lake. The new campus, that is. Well, I should say the renovated one because the North Campus had always been there. So back to action after the timeout. Centennial wins the draw Not what Forest Lake was looking for after the timeout. Centennial can throw down the exclamation point and issue a deafening sentence to Forest Lake to end this first half. Under a minute to go.
Centennial is more than willing to just kind of run around in circles, try to find their shot. You know, this is now with just 30 seconds to play. This is kind of like in basketball when the shot clock is dead. Okay, let's just kind of save it for the best shots, for the last shot, to try to get one more on the board here.
Without a shot clock, you can take your time. That's Cheesebro. Flips it up. Forest Lake keeping the interior in check, but Mua on the cut. Rips another one just as time expires. Centennial ends the second quarter with 5 straight goals, and they've got full control of this one, 8-2 as we head to halftime.
I believe that's Mua's first goal of the game. That would be her 9th of the season, and that's exactly what I was saying there with about 30 seconds to go, is they're more than willing to just hold on for the last shot, and hey, that's about as last as it gets. Kind of ball hit and twine with about a second to go. Clock runs out, and it's a 6-goal lead. This was once a 3-2 game, 5 goals there at the end of the first half for Centennial, and the Cougars are rolling.
The past comes alive at North Metro TV, where we can help you transfer your old videotapes, films, cassette tapes, record albums, and even photographs and slides to DVD and digital so you can enjoy them again. North Metro TV, bringing the past to life.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Let 211 be your guiding light for help with food, healthcare, and other resources.
211, how can I help you?
Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211, get connected, get help.
Mike Beaton with you for the moment, all by myself, talking to myself. That's Chaos Theory, but don't you worry. Ted will make his way back here. I don't think we have to worry about any giant prehistoric animals chasing him relentlessly through the island of Isla Nublar. Centennial up 8-2 over Forest Lake, outscoring the Rangers 6-1 in the second quarter. Highlights include hat trick number 4 on the season for Eloise, a pair of goals from Lillian Browsen, and just as the second quarter reached its end, Annabelle Mua cutting up the middle, laced one into the net, and Centennial on their way to an appearance in the section semifinals. This is the quarterfinals for girls lacrosse. Centennial, the 3 seed, they would likely get Blaine, high seed hosts. So if Centennial does end up hosting any more lacrosse games, we'll see if they come back here or find another field to play. Again, their regular facilities undergoing some renovations. This is the time of the year for high schools to do that, the spring, late spring, early summer break, because as you know, fall sports picks up in late August, so that doesn't give you a giant window. But Centennial beginning this third quarter with another draw control victory. We're still dealing with some showers. Not as long or as wide as the last couple of days, and since this is a turf field, it's not like yesterday when we did baseball that impacted field conditions. We've got a foul away from the ball. It's on Forest Lake. That means a free position set up because it occurred within the 8-meter arc for Annabelle Mua, who got a buzzer beater goal in the second. and does a little deke past Hagelin to start the third with another Centennial score. 60 seconds into the quarter. Mua picks up goal number 10 on the season. And that was an impressive little ditty, a little dizzy. Deke. I was going to say deke, dizzy, razzle dazzle. The grammar ghost got me. Oh my goodness, I feel like Steve Levy all those years ago on SportsCenter. Old school fans will know what I'm talking about when he was trying to talk of an injury report and meant to reference bulging disc and said what I just said. Welcome to the end of my career. My apologies for that snafu. I meant to say deke, little ditty, razzle dazzle. I was looking for adjectives that started with D, and that came out. Oh my goodness. It happens to the best of us. Again, it happened to Steve Levy. I think every broadcaster has run into a grammar snafu that they wish they could run back. But Centennial, they're not running back. They are looking forward as they are up 9-2. And oh, when Ted hears this, he comes back. This has been an eventful month of May for me. Earlier in the month, I did a pre-pro soccer game out at St. Croix Prep and meant to say mid-May evening and blurted out mid-morning evening. I think I just topped myself. Annabelle Mua looking to top her performance, and does. It was a muted celebration at first, but Annabelle Mua has the hat trick.
Cougar parents, take off your hats for number 6, Annabelle Mua.
1 minute, 59 seconds into the third. Annabelle Mua did another little sneak attack up front. She is a deceptive attacker for Centennial as they make it 10-2, 7 straight goals for Centennial going back into the second. And for Annabelle Mua, uncharted territory of sorts. Just 8 goals coming in. Not only does she have a hat trick, she has picked up a natural hat trick. In fact, she has checked off 2 birds with 1 stone. Figuratively, of course. Recording her first hat trick of the season and scoring a natural hat trick in the process. But she is a natural out there, so I guess we shouldn't be surprised. Another draw control win for Centennial. You had a feeling, at least I did, that the Cougars would have the upper hand, even though the win-loss record was similar between Forest Lake and Centennial. It was 3 versus 11. And while in the NCAA tournament, you can get some unpredictability there, it's a little tougher to pull off at the high school level. You've seen this a lot, particularly the 1 versus 8 matchups. Sometimes you get those first round upsets, but Centennial taking command, and this is what you want to do. This may not be a win that attracts attention, so to speak, but if you're serious about making a deep run, you've got to take care of the teams you're expected to beat. And after Forest Lake gave them a valiant effort, Wiest on the cut ended up going high, but she had a player back her up in Brazen, so Centennial hangs on to it. Coming up from the left side, number 15, Munger. Can't get it past Hagelin. And you got to feel for number 48, Ava Hagelin. She put in some fantastic work between the pipes in the first and early part of the second quarter, but it can be difficult to sustain against an attack like Centennial's, as Ted is ready to rejoin us. Ted, you missed out on the highlight, the blooper of my career.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm sure we'll brief you at our next break, but how about a highlight for Annabelle Mua, natural hat trick, first hat trick of the year. And Centennial picking up where they left off as they lead 10-2.
Yeah, what a start here to this half so far. And, it seems like ever since they really got settled in there midway through that second quarter or so, I think we're really starting to see maybe the distance between both of these two teams right now. But, we've talked about the depth. And, you mentioned Mua. There's certainly more depth from a lot more attackers getting in on the act for the Cougars.
Forest Lake getting the takeaway, trying to push the ball forward. And you spoke of deficits, Ted. Girls lacrosse, it is more difficult to be down at this magnitude because of the running clock. In boys lacrosse, if you're down 4, 5, 6 goals, no worry. You win a few faceoffs, get a few in the net, and you're back in it. In girls lacrosse, the clock stops for a goal score, of course, but that's it. You have a much more difficult path forward if you are trying to bounce back.
Yeah, it's not only that. It takes a minute to work the ball down the field a little bit. So to be able to get the ball into scoring position, and then you kind of got to rotate it around a little bit. So, yeah, it does take a minute just to be able to get one goal on the board sometimes.
And Aruka taking a spill on the turf. We haven't had any heavy shower activity, but even with turf, Ted, no matter the sport, when rain comes into play, the field conditions get a little more slick.
And that's one reason why I think some players in different some sports like the grass a little bit more. When this turf does get slick, it gets really slick out there. So a lot of times you'll see football players say, hey, I like the grass certainly more. I can get a lot more traction on the grass than I can the turf out there, which you certainly see more at the college level than the professional level. But, yeah, maybe you're seeing a little bit here.
We might have to ask Centennial's baseball team how they feel about grass field in wet conditions after yesterday's game. Centennial, again, still gets to play in the section baseball playoffs, but that was one of those you can't make it up games. Scoreless through 8, 9 runs in the ninth between the two teams.
Yeah, the beauty of double elimination. Yeah, you get another shot at it on the diamonds for both softball and baseball.
Not here. Win and you move on, lose and your season's over. And that adds to the drama, especially when you get to the later rounds. I've often said, Ted, you get some exceptions. I feel like once you get past the first round, that's when the terrain becomes tougher because everyone you're facing has picked up a win. Usually you have the contenders who can get out of that section reasonably. So while this may not be a huge surprise when you look at seeding and we looked at the metrics coming in for Centennial, I'm sure they'd like to pick up a couple more wins in the regular season, but they have a chance to start something new if they can finish this off against Forest Lake and get ready for a potential cat clash, which seems to happen a lot. At North Metro TV with the section alignments, but Blaine will await the winner in all likelihood.
Certainly like that in a lot of sports. Once you get out of the first round, I think the competition really starts to tighten up, especially at the high school level, right? When you get this 1 through 4 and you get into those semifinals, and sometimes, of course, there's upsets, the 5, 6, 7, whatever are in there, but it really starts to tighten up a lot.
Hagelin tightening up and getting a save. If you're a Forest Lake fan, you might wish some of those had come sooner, but this is not all on Hagelin. As Ted and I have seen, players like Mua, Wiest have put on some pretty impressive displays of agility, flexibility, maneuverability, and goalies can only do so much as Centennial takes it away. They have a chance to score in transition. Hagelin rises up again. Crease violation anyway, but Hagelin, you know what? She signed up for 48 minutes, as Scott Van Pelt would say if he were doing highlights of this sport.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned what she's done statistically coming into this season as well. It's you got to give credit to her for keeping this game as tight as it was early in this game. But, man, the barrage has certainly certainly opened this one up. But, sometimes you get like that in a hockey game and your goalie gives up 5 goals or 6 goals. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that goalie had a bad game. There's a lot, I think, that goes into goaltending, I think, in a variety of sports. And I think that's kind of an example of here today as well.
Forest Lake breaking through. Shot goes off the post. Piper DeLong, that was a big opportunity. I mean, you're still down by 8, but if DeLong nets that one, that would have been a huge morale boost for the Rangers.
Well, just to get a goal, it's been so long since they've gotten a goal, and Centennial has just been able to get goal after goal after goal on their side, and that's as good of an opportunity. And, just that shot going off the post is kind of a microcosm of what it's been for the last quarter or so for Forest Lake.
Centennial dashing downfield once more. Now a scrum ensues. Picked up by Browsen. On the verge of a 3rd straight hat trick. Picked up a couple of goals early. 2 hat tricks today for Centennial. 1 from Wiest and 1 for Mua. The 4th for Wiest. The first for Mua. Again, a natural hat trick in Annabelle's case. Hockey and lacrosse fans, I'm sure know what that means. The rest of you, I'll explain once I figure out what Centennial tries to do. They're going to try to outrun the defender, and doing so is Ryan Cheesebro. She truly did stand alone on that drive.
Yeah, every time you say her name, it kind of gets me hungry a little bit. Sounds like cheeseburger a little bit. But, yeah, she was hungry for a goal, obviously, right there. So getting it done, just another attacker getting in on the act here.
Well, if you're hungry, you know what? Let's go to the Olympia Cafe because that's all they sell: a cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger. Old school SNL fans will understand that reference.
Yep. But a 9-goal lead right now for the Cougars as we're approaching in on that 10-goal lead mark with just a couple of minutes left here in the 3rd.
Cheesebro picking up her 7th of the season. By the way, a natural hat trick just means a player scoring 3 times consecutively without anyone else interrupting. It's kind of like the cycle in baseball and softball. It's one of those fun little nuggets, but it doesn't really get talked about in statistical milestones.
Well, we can certainly talk about it.
Oh, you and I can talk about it all day. It's just you don't see on programs natural hat tricks listed from players. But that's okay. A hat trick is a hat trick is a hat trick. Whether it comes naturally or unnaturally, I guess.
Artificial.
Artificial?
An artificial hat trick.
An artificial hat trick. I guess that's what Wiest has on artificial turf, right?
You can have an AI hat trick, an artificial intelligence hat trick. Oh, what are we doing here? All right.
I've never seen this formation before, and then Wiest almost got undercut by number 16, Isabella Longen. They all grouped up, and then Longen just tripped up Wiest. It's only a common foul. I did not see a flag go up, so Wiest will have to reset well outside the attacking area. But we've seen Centennial pull off some interesting formations, Ted, where they back up and group, and that was another one.
Yeah, was that the movie Little Joe? Is that like the annexation of Puerto Rico? Did they do something like that, or am I thinking of?
Yeah, I think you're thinking of Mighty Ducks Flying V.
That maybe is what I'm thinking of.
Because the annexation of Puerto Rico was a Fumblerooski.
That's right. Yeah, I had Fumblerooski in my head to start off with, but I wasn't quite sure. But yeah, that's like a Flying V. You just get together, figure it out, and then fan out from there. But yeah.
As long as you have 7 to a side, I guess the Flying V is a valid maneuver.
You know, I got my 90s references mixed up and crossed up a little bit there. It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Well, that doesn't even come close to the mix-ups I've had in this one.
If you're not mixing it up, are you really trying? That's what I want to know.
I try too hard, is what I'm trying to tell you. Centennial trying to end this 3rd quarter the way they started, but a foul on the Cougars no, it's on the Rangers, or is it the? No, it is on the Rangers. Yeah, or Cougars. Now I'm getting mixed up, so that's going to end the 3rd quarter in all likelihood. But Centennial I'd say, has this one secured, adding to their lead, shutting out the Rangers in quarter number 3. Mua gets the hat trick, and Centennial gets one step closer to a section semifinal appearance in girls lacrosse.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my third child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
I'll be seeing you.
No, the thing I've missed the most during this entire time, this pandemic, has been you.
I love playing to a live audience. There's nothing like it.
The COVID-19 vaccines are going to help us all get back to the moments we miss.
It's totally normal to have questions. I did too.
That's why it's so important to get informed.
So ask your doctor and get the facts. It's up to you.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. She quit, and now there's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking, now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
One more quarter to go. This has been all Centennial. Since that 5-0 run to end the second, they lead 11-2, and now they just have to write the final chapter and not do anything silly in realistic terms, Ted. But how about Centennial? Forest Lake gave them a charge in the first quarter.
Yep.
Made this interesting for a time. Forest Lake had that offense contained on the play of Hagelin, but the Cougars flexing their agility and maneuverability over these last couple of quarters and taking command to turn this into what will likely be a comfortable win.
Yeah, they've done a really good job since they've opened it up. They've got they're getting scoring from a lot of different places, I think, and it just we've mentioned it a couple of times throughout the broadcast. It's they just needed some time to kind of kick the rust off a little bit. And once they really got in their groove, once they kind of figured out what the structure of Forest Lake was defensively, they adjusted really well. And they've done a really good job here. Once again, we mentioned it was 3-2 at one point, so it's 8 consecutive goals. Yeah, because it was 3-1. Forest Lake made it 3-2, so 8 consecutive goals right now for the Cougars. So they are absolutely rolling here at Mariner Middle School.
Wiest and Mua both with hat tricks. Wiest her 4th of the year, Mua her 1st. Forest Lake gets the takeaway. And for Forest Lake, Ted, you and I have covered a whole lot of sports. They're still getting after it. As we were saying, they're not going to pack up and say forget it. They'll keep plugging away. A couple of reasons for that. You never know who's watching in terms of coaches or scouts, but we've been in this situation where teams, everyone has those dreams, those visions of making a deep run in the playoffs. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. For Forest Lake, how do you approach this last quarter?
Well, you just got to stay aggressive, and you can't let what's happening right now happen. You can't let long runs kind of go down the field and Forest Lake to kind of dominate the possession. That's it's very apropos. That's what was happening when I started to open my mouth. But that's what needs to happen. They need to try to take control of possession and put a little bit more pressure. And we've been saying that since the beginning. of this one as well. But now Centennial can kind of just sit on this one. They can throw it around the perimeter a little bit with like 10:40 to go here, and they can take their sweet time with a 9-goal advantage. So Forest Lake, I would not be surprised to see them put a little bit more pressure. There it is, right on cue, man. When I say stuff, it just happens. That's kind of where Forest Lake approach needs to be.
Have you been working on those ESP powers, Ted? Powers of persuasion?
It seems that way. I don't know. Maybe I got something in a lacrosse coaching career or something like that.
Well, Centennial certainly putting in a persuasive win. How that will translate into the semifinals, we'll have to see. Again, Blaine, the 2 seed. The first meeting between those two, Centennial and Blaine, if that is indeed the semifinal matchup, Blaine won 8-5.
Yeah, those are fun, seeing those Blaine versus Centennial matchups. Of course, we love seeing those in these section playoffs. I remember a couple of years ago, I think we had did we have a Blaine versus Centennial girls basketball? Was that a section final? It might have been a semifinal. But I thought maybe one year we had a championship game, possibly in there. But yeah, it's super fun to be able to see these two schools and these two communities go head to head. Sometimes with the right to stay on the line.
And again, with the conference affiliation and geography, you get a lot of crossover in section play. Of course, a lot of our teams still in it, so stay tuned to North Metro TV for programming updates on what games we'll cover next week as we continue our coverage through the section finals. NSBN does the state tournaments. Boys are making their way. We'll be with you for that next game. A foul was called on Forest Lake. Chisago Lakes and Centennial, so another quarterfinal match and another opportunity for the Cougars to advance. .820 left in the fourth. And Ted, you hit it on the head. Centennial, they know where they're at. And just as I say that, I was saying here they are taking their time, not really showing the same urgency.
You missed it by that much.
You've heard of just a bit outside. I missed it by that much. This is why I am not a psychic and Ted is. Oh, are we going to get the flying V again? Or that's not quite flying V. I don't know what that is.
Some sort of huddle.
If we get to do the semifinals, well, that formation paid off. And remember, you can use any part of the field, Ted, as long as you keep 7 to the attacking side. So we got, I believe, a lob from Weiss to Avery Sauber, and Avery picks up her 2nd goal of the year.
Yeah, it started with the Cougar huddle over there or something. So you're right. We gotta come up with a name of what exactly that formation is. But you see that, and Forest Lake kind of converges on that, gets them out of position, and now you've got some of these Forest Lake defenders a little bit more up in the play towards the midfield, and then Centennial can kind of sneak behind them a little bit. So, yeah, certainly a creative formation there, but pays off with a goal there for Centennial.
So we are now in the running time threshold, and in girls lacrosse, it's any time a team builds a lead of 10 or more. If Forest Lake were to score again and get within 10, the clock stops. No, it keeps going. I thought it was different. Well, it keeps going because okay, in boys, they do that for sure. I thought the same thing happened in girls lacrosse, but admittedly, we don't often cover runaways like this, and I certainly don't see a whole lot of runaways in the games I do, at least not of this magnitude. This is all window dressing, let's be honest. Centennial is going to advance into the section semifinals, so this is a highly specific syntax conversation. But we'll be with you for Game 2 between Centennial and Chisago Lakes in boys lacrosse right here at Mariner Middle School. As Ted noted earlier, hearkening back to White Bear Lake High School's original name, or one of them. That's got to be a nice perk. You keep all the facilities when you build a new school, and now you've got a whole lot of spaces. And we certainly want to extend our gratitude to White Bear Lake for opening up one of their facilities to give these two a chance to play, as Centennial's field is undergoing renovations. And you do get a lot of this camaraderie between athletic directors and schools. There isn't a hot-blooded rivalry where they won't let teams use certain fields. There's a whole lot of high schools, over 400 in the state, and plenty of facilities available should option one not be an option. So looking ahead, again, the section semifinals will be next week as we are approaching the 5-minute mark. Again, running time, although in girls lacrosse, it is pretty much running time outside of goals being scored. And there was at least one fan who took exception to the call that it was Forest Lake ball. It doesn't matter what the score is. Sometimes people still get really into it. But this game was a tight one to begin. It was 2-1 after the first quarter. Forest Lake got within one again, 3-2, and Ted and I thought the defensive output from Hagelin was going to be enough to make Centennial think twice, but the Cougars just turned things up, having agility on their side. So again, looking at the bracket, Chisago Lakes is the 1 seed in Section 7. And it will be high seed that hosts all the way through. Blaine playing Duluth at Blaine. And that is a 2 versus 7. So if Blaine wins, as we expect, Blaine would host the semifinals, but Chisago Lakes gets home field all the way through. So we'll either be taking a road trip or we'll set up at one of our schools. I guess it depends on what happens in the section semifinals. But Blaine, again, if they beat Duluth, and this is presuming that happens, I don't have a live look in as of this time, Blaine would host Centennial in the semifinal. And a venue we know well. And this has been the story of the second half. And really, the second quarter, Centennial getting all kinds of possession time. Number 33, Cheeseborough was going to try to sidearm another one in, couldn't do so. But some aggressive defensive play by Centennial. They have been swarming Forest Lake on these possessions. And the Rangers, outside of a couple of instances, have not been able to get solid, consistent time with the ball. They've been stuck on defense for most of this one. 2:20 to go. Offensively, I'd say the player of the game, well, you have a couple of candidates. Mua scored a natural hat trick. Centennial was up big by that point, but always fun to see one of the regulars, Mua, a part of the offensive rotation for Centennial, the sophomore, picking up her first hat trick of the year. And with Wiest graduating and moving on to play college lacrosse, if memory serves, Mua may be one of those players who assumes those duties. You have to think Mua and Brazen will be the two leaders, if not more, for Centennial in 2026. And for Forest Lake, they did take a step forward. They were able to avenge a defeat to Anoka in the first round of sections, but their road ahead, maybe a little longer, a little steeper than Centennial. That doesn't mean they can't get there. But Forest Lake, they've been trying to build up their ranks for a little while, and sometimes the process is gradual. As a foul was called on the Rangers, Centennial will set up from the 12-meter arc. That's Brosnan, typically the 12-meter spot, not a spot for a direct attack. And Centennial really taking a more casual, more calm approach in this fourth quarter. They know they don't really need to do much more. So they're content to hang on to the ball and just let time work its way down, work its way forward. It's an understandable approach. They'll try to set one more play up, but the high-low goes into the crease. You don't get any bonus points for margin of victory. But Centennial, in emphatic fashion, will end a 6-game losing streak that started on May 5th. Forest Lake looking for one more. And Linzer got the stop. She'll be able to run out the clock effectively. Still in the crease, though. And flings it out to end the game. So after a slow start, Centennial sped things up and zooms their way to a 12-2 victory over Forest Lake to win the Section 7 Girls Lacrosse Quarterfinal. Forest Lake season ends. Centennial will play next week in the Section semifinals again. We suspect it will be Blaine. If Duluth pulls off the upset, Centennial would host. If Blaine wins, Blaine would host. Next week, I believe Tuesday, is when the semifinals will take place as the journey to state continues for the Cougars. Hat tricks for Eloise and Annabelle Mua. Those are your highlights for Centennial. A couple of goals as well from Brosnan. So we'll take a break. If you're watching this on TV or wherever you may be, if you're watching online, we'll have a separate link, of course. But coming up, Centennial Boys Lacrosse taking on Chisago Lakes in their Section 7 quarterfinal from Mariner Middle School in White Bear Lake. So our coverage will continue in a short while. Otherwise, we thank you for watching coverage of high school section girls lacrosse on North Metro TV. For Ted LaRue, I'm Mike Beaton. We'll see you next time.